Have you noticed? Nothing is actually wrong with your life, but something still feels off? You wake up. You do what you're supposed to do. You handle responsibilities. And yet, there's this quiet feeling inside you that says, this is not where my story is supposed to end. If you're an Aquarius, this moment usually comes silently, not as a crisis, but as a deep internal shift. The kind that makes you realize you've outgrown a version of yourself without even noticing when it happened. Before we go further, leave a comment and simply write, I'm open. Not for me, for yourself, because what you're standing in right now is not the middle of your story. It's the turning point. And maybe that's why this moment feels so quiet. Not dramatic, not loud, just a soft awareness that something inside you has shifted, even if the world around you still looks the same. It's almost strange how subtle it is. No big event. No obvious reason. Just this gentle sense that the life you're living doesn't quite fit the way it used to. You still function. You still show up. But there's less spark in the familiar routines, less emotional gravity in conversations that once felt meaningful. It's not disappointment. It's more like emotional gravity has changed direction. For Aquarius, this usually doesn't come with panic. It comes with distance. You start observing your own life from a few steps back, watching yourself move through days that feel technically fine, yet somehow misaligned with who you're becoming. And that's the part most people misunderstand. They think growth always feels exciting. But real growth often feels like a quiet detachment from things that no longer match your internal frequency. It's like outgrowing a room you once loved. Nothing is wrong with the room. You just notice the ceiling feels lower than it used to. Have you ever caught yourself feeling nostalgic for a version of your future that you can't quite describe yet? That's usually the first signal. Not sadness, not dissatisfaction, but a subtle emotional echo that says there is more space somewhere else. Aquarius energy doesn't break things dramatically. It simply stops feeding what no longer feels alive. You begin investing less attention, less emotion, less identity into systems that once defined you. Not out of rebellion, out of clarity. You realize that the version of yourself who built this life is not the same one who has to live it now. And there's something oddly peaceful about that realization. Because for the first time, you're not trying to fix anything. You're just noticing what no longer needs to come with you. The funny thing is, from the outside, no one sees this. You look stable, consistent, grounded. But internally, there's a quiet rearranging happening. Your values are shifting. Your priorities are recalibrating. Your definition of success is becoming more intimate, less performative. Less about proving, more about belonging to yourself. And this is where Aquarius often feels both free and strangely alone. Because growth at this level doesn't have a social script. There's no announcement, no external validation. Just you, slowly stepping out of emotional contracts you didn't realize you were still honoring. Contracts like I should be further by now, I should want this more, I should feel grateful instead of restless. But the truth is, your restlessness isn't dissatisfaction. It's orientation. Your internal compass has updated its direction. So here's a question, just for you, no pressure to answer out loud. When you imagine the next version of your life, what feels lighter than your current one? Not more impressive, not more successful, just lighter. That feeling is important. It's not a plan. It's not a goal. It's a signal from the part of you that's already stepping forward, even if your body hasn't followed yet. This phase isn't about making radical changes. It's about releasing emotional gravity from what no longer defines you. You don't need to burn bridges. You don't need to reinvent yourself overnight. You're simply allowing certain identities to dissolve naturally, without forcing replacements. And that's a very Aquarius kind of transformation. Quiet, internal, almost invisible, but deeply irreversible. Because once you see that your life has outgrown its own shape, you can't unsee it. You can still walk through the same days, but you no longer confuse them with destiny. You start sensing that something else is approaching, not as a promise, not as a prediction, more like a space opening inside you, waiting to be filled by a version of yourself you haven't fully met yet. And that space inside you, it doesn't stay empty for long. It slowly fills with a feeling that's hard to name. Not pain, not sadness, just a quiet pressure behind your thoughts, like something gently asking for your attention. You keep moving through your days the same way. You answer messages. You show up on time. You handle what needs to be handled. From the outside, everything still looks stable, but inside, there's a subtle tension, a soft resistance you feel when you repeat certain routines, a moment of hesitation before saying yes to things that once felt natural. It's not dramatic enough to complain about, not heavy enough to call a crisis. It's just this low-volume voice that appears in the background of your life and says, "This is not it." Not in a frustrated way, more in a curious way, like your soul is quietly tapping on the glass, trying to get your attention without disturbing the surface. For Aquarius, this kind of discomfort doesn't feel emotional at first. It feels philosophical. You start questioning things that used to feel obvious. Why am I still investing energy here? Why does this role feel heavier than it should? Why do I feel more present when I'm alone than when I'm surrounded by people? It's as if your internal operating system has updated overnight, but the external world is still running on the old version. And so there's a delay, a slight mismatch. Not painful, just noticeable. You might even try to rationalize it. Tell yourself you're lucky, that others have it worse, that this is what adulthood looks like. But the feeling doesn't go away. It simply becomes more refined, more precise. You notice it in small moments, in the way your attention drifts during conversations, in the way certain goals no longer motivate you, in the way your body relaxes when you imagine something different, even if you can't define what that something is. Here's something most people don't talk about. Discomfort is not always a signal to escape. Sometimes it's a signal that your identity is changing faster than your environment. Your nervous system knows before your mind does. It starts withdrawing emotional energy from places that no longer feel aligned, even if you still care about them. This is why the discomfort feels quiet, because it's not asking you to run. It's asking you to notice, to pay attention to what feels heavy, to what feels forced, to what requires more effort than meaning. And the strange part is, the more you notice it, the calmer you become. Not because things are resolved, but because you finally stop ignoring the message. Have you felt that moment when you realize you're not tired of life? You're tired of a certain version of yourself? That realization doesn't come with fear. It comes with relief. Relief that you're not broken. That your lack of enthusiasm is not laziness. That your detachment is not emotional failure. It's simply a sign that your inner world is reorganizing its priorities. You're no longer motivated by what impresses. You're becoming sensitive to what feels honest. And honesty at this stage of life is quieter than ambition. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it waits. It waits for you to stop numbing yourself with busyness, to stop explaining away your own signals, to sit with the question you've been avoiding. What in my life still feels true to who I am now, not who I used to be? You don't need an answer yet. The question itself is already doing its work. Because once you allow that discomfort to exist without trying to fix it, it stops feeling like a problem and starts feeling like a doorway. And when that doorway begins to feel real, something else quietly steps forward. Not a solution, not a plan, just a single question that starts echoing in the background of your mind. It doesn't arrive dramatically. It slips in while you're doing something ordinary, driving home, washing dishes, lying awake a little longer than usual. If nothing changes, can I live like this for another 10 years? At first, your mind tries to answer quickly. Of course you could. You're capable. You've handled harder things. But something in you hesitates. Not because your life is bad, but because, for the first time, you sense that comfort is no longer the same as alignment. You realize you're not asking about survival. You're asking about resonance, about whether the life you're living still reflects the person you're becoming. And that's where it gets interesting. Because the question doesn't bring fear, it brings curiosity. You start imagining a version of yourself who feels lighter, not more successful, not more admired, just more present, more awake in your own body, more honest in your choices, more selective with your energy. And suddenly, the future feels less like a timeline and more like a mirror. You're not chasing something external anymore. You're responding to an internal image that feels quietly true. For Aquarius, this is a very specific kind of awakening. Not emotional, not impulsive, it's cognitive, existential, almost philosophical. You begin to see your life as a system, a structure you helped design at a different stage of consciousness. And now, your awareness has outgrown the architecture. So the question isn't really about 10 years. It's about whether you want to keep being loyal to an identity that no longer feels accurate. You notice how often you say yes out of habit. How many decisions are based on who you used to be? How rarely you ask yourself what actually feels meaningful now. Not impressive, not productive, meaningful. Here's the part most people miss. This question doesn't mean you're supposed to leave everything. It doesn't mean you need to start over. It simply means you've entered a phase where your inner truth is becoming louder than your external narrative. You're no longer satisfied with autopilot, with inherited definitions of success, with performing a version of stability that doesn't feel alive inside. And strangely, the question doesn't demand an answer. It just keeps gently reshaping your perception. You begin to notice which moments drain you, which environments make you feel smaller, which conversations feel repetitive instead of nourishing. And at the same time, you notice what feels expansive. Silence, solitude, creative thoughts that come out of nowhere, a desire to simplify rather than accumulate. Have you ever felt that your future self is quietly watching you, waiting for you to catch up? Not judging, not rushing, just observing with patience. That's the energy behind this question. It's not pressure, it's invitation. An invitation to renegotiate your relationship with time, to stop asking what you should be doing, and start asking what you're actually here to experience. The moment this question enters your awareness, something irreversible happens. You stop measuring your life by milestones. You start measuring it by internal coherence, by how often you feel like yourself, by how little you have to perform, by how naturally your choices align with your values. And the most beautiful part is, You don't need to know where this leads. You just need to notice that a different version of you already exists in your imagination. Not as a fantasy, as a memory of something you haven't lived yet. A memory of who you are becoming, and it usually arrives when you least expect it. Not during some big moment. Not when you are actively searching. It comes in quietly, disguised as something ordinary. A message you almost delete. A conversation that lingers longer than it should. A thought that appears out of nowhere and refuses to leave. Nothing dramatic happens on the surface, but inside, something pauses. You feel it before you understand it. A small shift in attention, a subtle tightening in your chest, as if part of you is leaning forward, listening more closely than usual. This is the part people call luck, but it is not luck. It is awareness meeting timing. Because the message itself is rarely extraordinary. What makes it powerful is the version of you that receives it. 6 months ago, you might have ignored it. Last year, you would not even notice. But now, something in you is tuned differently. You read between the lines. You sense what is not being said. You recognize an opening where others see coincidence. For Aquarius, opportunity does not feel like excitement at first. It feels like recognition, a strange familiarity with something new, as if your future is briefly introducing itself without explanation. You do not jump. You do not react impulsively. You simply become more present. You replay the conversation in your mind. You sit with the idea longer than necessary. You feel a quiet pull, not toward the thing itself, but toward who you might become if you followed it. And that is the real message. Not the email, not the offer, not the invitation. The message is the internal response. The way your energy changes. The way your curiosity becomes focused. The way your body reacts before your mind decides. Have you noticed how real opportunities rarely come with certainty? They arrive incomplete, imperfect, unclear. They ask for presence, not confidence. For honesty, not guarantees. This is why most people miss them. They are waiting for clarity, for permission, for a sign that makes sense. But the sign does not speak in logic. It speaks in resonance. It shows up as a feeling that says this matters, even if I cannot explain why yet. And you, more than most, understand this language. You are not drawn to what is loud. You are drawn to what feels intelligent in a deeper way. What feels aligned with your values, with your curiosity, with your desire to live something meaningful, not just something impressive. So when the moment arrives, you do not need fireworks. You only need that quiet internal yes, the one that does not feel emotional, does not feel urgent, just steady, almost calm. And here is the part no one tells you. You do not have to take the opportunity for it to change you. You only have to recognize it. Because recognition is already a form of movement. It shifts your self-image, your expectations, your sense of what is possible. Once you see that a different path exists, you cannot unknow it. Even if you stay where you are no longer the same person standing there. So the message is not about action, it is about perception. About becoming the kind of person who notices when life is speaking quietly, who senses openings instead of waiting for permission, who trusts subtle signals more than external validation. Here is a question to sit with, gently. If this moment is already trying to communicate with you, what part of you is being invited to wake up? Not to change everything, not to escape your life, just to listen more closely than before. Because the most powerful opportunities do not announce themselves. They wait patiently. until you are ready to hear them. It does not require a grand decision. No dramatic ending, no emotional speech, no final confrontation with the past. Most real endings are quiet. They happen in the way your attention shifts, in the way certain conversations no longer hold your energy, in the way you stop explaining yourself to people who stopped listening long ago. Letting go for you is rarely an act. It is a change in investment. You do not destroy bridges. You simply stop crossing them. Not because you are bitter, not because you are disappointed, but because something inside you has matured beyond the need to stay. There is a kind of release that feels almost invisible. No tears, no relief, just a soft recognition that you are done. And that recognition feels strange at first, because it does not feel like loss. It feels like space. Space where there used to be effort. Space where there used to be emotional labor. Space where there used to be questions you kept asking yourself for years. Aquarius, you often outgrow things before you consciously admit it. Relationships, identities, dreams that once felt meaningful. Not because they were wrong, but because they were temporary versions of you. You do not leave in anger. You leave in silence. You stop feeding what no longer feeds you. You stop proving what no longer needs proof. You stop carrying what was never meant to be permanent. And the most surprising part is how natural it feels. Like taking off a coat you forgot you were wearing. Like exhaling after holding your breath for too long without realizing it. There is no void, only lightness. This is the kind of ending that does not break your heart. It realigns it. It teaches you that detachment does not mean indifference. It means respect for your own evolution. You are allowed to leave things that did not hurt you. You are allowed to close chapters that were not toxic. You are allowed to move on from good things that simply became too small for who you are now. And this is where your power quietly returns. Not through rebellion, not through reinvention, through emotional honesty, through the courage to admit that you no longer resonate, that your curiosity has shifted, that your inner world has changed its frequency. Letting go without drama is a form of mastery. It means you no longer need external closure. You carry your own. You bless what was. You release what is done. You do not drag the past into your future for comfort. You walk forward lighter, not empty, just unburdened. Here is a gentle question for you. What are you still emotionally maintaining, even though your soul has already moved on? Not out of fear, not out of guilt, but simply out of habit. Because once you notice that, the release will not require effort. It will happen naturally, like turning your head toward the light without thinking about it. And from that lighter place, something new can finally find you. It feels quieter now, not empty, just calm in a way you are not used to yet. The kind of calm that does not come from everything being perfect, but from no longer forcing what does not fit. This phase rarely looks impressive from the outside. There is no applause, no visible transformation people can point to and say, that is it. But inside you, something is being rearranged. You start paying attention to how your energy moves through the day. What drains you, what nourishes you, what feels heavy even before it begins. And slowly, without making a big deal of it, you stop saying yes to things that cost too much of your inner peace. Not because you are tired of life, but because you are finally interested in the right version of it. You begin to redefine success in ways no one taught you. Success becomes waking up without anxiety. It becomes having space to think. It becomes being able to leave a room without explaining yourself. You notice your boundaries are no longer walls. They are filters. They do not keep people out. They keep your nervous system intact. And this is new for you, Aquarius. You spent so long being open to everything. Ideas, people, possibilities. Now you are learning something more refined. Discernment. You are choosing what deserves your attention, what deserves your emotional labor, what deserves your imagination. Your life becomes smaller in appearance. Fewer commitments, fewer voices in your head, fewer expectations you carry that were never yours. But internally, it feels vast, like standing in a wide open field after years of crowded rooms. You start building a life that makes sense to your nervous system, not to other people's opinions. You sleep differently. You think more clearly. You no longer rush to fill silence with noise. There is a subtle confidence growing in you, not the kind that needs to be seen, the kind that feels stable even when no one is watching. This rebuild is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to the version of you that existed before you learned to perform, before you learned to adapt, before you learned to compromise your truth for belonging. You are not trying to impress life anymore. You are trying to align with it. And alignment feels simple, but not easy. It asks you to sit with boredom, with uncertainty, with not knowing exactly what comes next. But for the first time, that uncertainty feels honest. It feels like potential, not anxiety, like the pause before something real takes shape. Here is a quiet question for you. If no one was measuring your progress, what would you build with your time? Not what looks meaningful, not what sounds impressive, what actually feels like home inside your body. Because this phase is not about speed, it is about integrity. It is about constructing a life that your future self will thank you for, not one that earns immediate approval. You are learning to live less, but live true. Less noise, less performance, more presence, more choice. And in this gentle reconstruction, you are finally creating something rare. A life that fits the shape of your soul. It does not arrive the way you were taught to expect it. There is no dramatic moment, no sudden victory, no crowd cheering for a version of you that finally made it. It feels more like this. You wake up and your chest is not tight. Your thoughts are slower. Your breath is deeper without effort. You realize you are no longer rehearsing conversations in your head, no longer preparing defenses for battles that might never happen, no longer carrying the quiet pressure to become someone else. And that is when it begins to register. This is what success actually feels like. Not louder, not bigger, just lighter. You are not chasing approval anymore. You are not editing yourself to fit rooms that feel too small. You are not negotiating your worth through productivity or performance. You move through your day with a strange kind of dignity, not the kind that demands respect, the kind that does not need it. You respect yourself enough to rest, enough to say no without guilt, enough to leave things unfinished when they no longer matter. And this is deeply unfamiliar for you, Aquarius. You were wired to improve systems, to fix what feels broken, to stay mentally ahead of life. But now, something inside you has softened. You are no longer trying to outthink existence. You are trying to inhabit it. Success becomes the ability to sit with your own silence, to enjoy a meal without distraction, to end a day without feeling behind. It becomes choosing peace over potential, truth over image, depth over speed. You notice how your body reacts. Your shoulders drop, your jaw relaxes. Your mind stops racing to the next version of yourself. There is no urgency to become more. There is just a quiet sense of enough, and that enough feels radical. You begin to understand something most people never learn, that the real achievement is not accumulating more identity, but shedding the ones that were never yours. You no longer need to be impressive to feel valuable. You no longer need to be exceptional to feel alive. You no longer need to be understood by everyone to feel real. Your life starts to feel honest, not optimized, not curated, just aligned. And alignment feels like this. You trust your timing. You listen to your instincts. You let moments pass without forcing meaning into them. There's a soft confidence in the way you move now. Not ambition, not arrogance, self-permission. You give yourself permission to be ordinary in a world obsessed with spectacle, to be slow in a culture addicted to speed, to be present in an era of constant anticipation. And in that permission, something profound happens. You stop performing for a future that never arrives, and you start living inside the one that is already here. Here is a gentle question to sit with. If no one ever praised your life again, would you still want to live it the way you do now? Because that is the quiet test of real success. Not what looks good from the outside, but what feels true when no one is watching. And right now, whether you realize it or not, you are building a life that does not need an audience. A life that fits your nervous system, your values, your actual rhythm. And that, more than anything you were promised before, now is what it means to finally make it. There is a moment that does not announce itself. No signal, no sign in the sky, no external permission. It feels almost too simple to be important. You are sitting somewhere ordinary, a car, a kitchen, a quiet room at night, and something inside you shifts. Not with fear, not with excitement, with clarity. You realize that nothing outside needs to change first. Not the job, not the relationship, not the timeline you were waiting on. The real turning point lives much deeper than circumstances. It lives in the way you speak to yourself when no one hears, in the way you choose again after disappointment, in the way you stop negotiating your own needs. This is the moment you stop waiting for life to rescue you. And begin asking yourself a different kind of question. What if no one is coming because you were never meant to be saved? What if the strength you have been searching for was always designed to be internal? That thought can feel heavy at first, but then it becomes liberating. Because it means your future is no longer dependent on luck, or timing, or other people's readiness. It is dependent on one quiet decision. To stop living on autopilot, to stop repeating stories that no longer feel true, to stop calling survival a form of success. You do not need to destroy your old life. You simply stop obeying it. You stop letting fear make your choices. You stop letting comfort define your ceiling. You stop letting past versions of yourself vote on present decisions. And this is deeply Aquarian. Because your soul was never built for repetition. You were built for evolution. For inner revolutions that happen without applause. For choosing authenticity even when it costs familiarity. The real turning point is not dramatic. It is a soft rebellion. You wake up and decide to listen to your intuition instead of your anxiety. You choose truth over approval. You choose alignment over acceleration. And slowly, almost invisibly, your life begins to reorganize itself around who you really are. Not who you learned to be, not who you had to be, but who you actually are when you are not afraid. This is where surviving ends, not because everything becomes easy, but because you stop betraying yourself to stay safe. You start choosing what feels honest, even if it feels uncertain, even if it feels lonely at first. And something incredible happens in that space. Your nervous system relaxes. Your decisions feel cleaner. Your future stops feeling like an obligation and starts feeling like a relationship. You are no longer chasing a life. You are participating in it. Here is a gentle question to hold tonight. If you were not afraid of disappointing anyone, who would you become next? Because the real turning point is not about becoming someone new. It is about finally allowing the version of you that has been waiting quietly all along. The one that does not want to impress. The one that does not want to prove. The one that simply wants to live honestly. That version is not loud, but it is real. And when you choose it even once, even in something small, you are no longer surviving your life. You are choosing it. Before you close this space, let me leave you with one quiet truth. Nothing you heard tonight was meant to change you, because you were never broken. It was only meant to remind you of what your soul already knows, but sometimes forgets when life gets loud. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not missing your moment. You are standing inside it. And the fact that you felt something here, a shift, a warmth, a sense of recognition, means your intuition is awake. That is your real gift, Aquarius. Not prediction, not vision, but the ability to feel what is real beneath the noise. From this point forward, you do not need to force the future. Just stay honest. Stay curious. Stay willing to listen to the quiet voice inside you that always knows which direction feels true. Growth does not arrive like thunder. It arrives like breath. Soft, steady, invisible, but life-changing. If something in this story touched you, if a sentence felt like it was speaking directly to your heart, I would love to know. Leave a comment. Not for me, for yourself. Write one word that describes how you feel right now. Just one. Because when you name your state of being, you begin to own it. And if this space feels safe to you, if these messages feel like home, consider staying with us. Subscribe. Not to a channel, but to your own evolution. This is not content. This is a conversation with your future self. And I promise you this. The journey does not end here. It is only opening. There are more messages waiting for you. More layers of clarity. More moments of remembering who you truly are. Trust yourself. You are exactly where you need to be. And somewhere very close to now, the next message is already forming. We will meet again in it.